Yeah.
Triple H wrestles nearly 40 minutes, and the last 27 of them are with a pretty serious throat injury. So serious that after the match, he goes to the hospital by ambulance. They hold him overnight for observation and testing, and they're telling him he shouldn't wrestle until the week before Thanksgiving at the absolute earliest. He's diagnosed with just a swollen neck, but it's making breathing and talking very difficult by putting pressure on his esophagus and trachea. Listen, Van Dam's trying things. It's not like he can do the move the way he normally would inside this structure. He's doing it from an awkward position. I guess the natural question is, there's a lot of conspiracy theorists who believe that Triple H was a political animal. Is there any heat on Rob Van Dam for this, or does everybody understand it was a freaking accident in a new structure?
I think most people thought the latter. I think
Yeah.
most people thought that it was a brand new deal,
Yeah.
and I don't see as Rob being a culprit. You know, the only thing you say is that the agent that help put the match together should have made sure that uh, you didn't try something that you had been doing, but you'd never done it in the structure before. It just didn't fit well, and maybe that's the case here with this situation with Triple H, because RVD he was stiff and snug, maybe a better word. I don't know, but I don't ever remember him being overly dangerous, quite frankly. So, but it could have been a big conspiracy theory, quite frankly, and I'm sure some RVD loyalists that are enjoying their 420 might disagree with us, but so be it.
Well, the structure itself, Meltzer believed cost around $500,000 to build. Now, I don't know if that is a quote unquote working number, but we can all agree it's a six-figure structure. There's pressure on the talent to get over the dangerousness of this and just how violent it is. And I remember watching as a fan thinking, man, I don't know how they're going to take bumps all over that metal.
Yeah.
And they did. Um, there's criticism in the Observer saying some view this as a questionable expense because that's like what they spend almost for developmental in a year. And we're spending this on one quote unquote gimmick match at a time when the company's making a lot of cutbacks. But I view it a different way as, hey man, they're trying to create new tentpole events. And clearly it worked. We set an all-time North American record. So much like we have a really successful Royal Rumble concept, Survivor Series by this point, boy, the 5-on-5 thing, that was passe. Nobody cared about it anymore.
No,
So if you
they
can,
still don't. By the way, they still don't.
they still don't. What would you say to the folks who may have been critical of the expense behind the structure?
Get over it.
Yeah.
We got to try new things. You hit the nail on the head. If it had gotten over to the level that was envisioned or hoped for, it would have been a tentpole event. The whole paper would have been built around the Elimination Chamber main event. That was always going to be the goal. New pay-per-view titles were needed, and this is a very, I had no problem with that thing. Like I said to you earlier, I was confused a little bit when it was first introduced to me, and before I saw the artist drawing, so I get a visual of what I was being told. But that's all that was. Hey, if it had hit the way that everybody wanted, and it created a brand new title where it became an annual event that was very much anticipated, then nobody would be talking like this.
Let's just remind everybody, Hogan's gone, Austin's gone, Rock is gone, and we're trying to build new stars, but we've essentially killed Kane with this Katie Vick stuff, and we're trying to just create stars at this point. And instead of going with a Rob Van Dam or a Booker T or someone else, we go with Shawn Michaels. And Meltzer wonders, what type of message does that send the boys? When you're switching both of your big titles on the same night, it's a lot to process creatively as a fan. And he even says, and these are his words, Show, considered the laziest wrestler on the roster, got the title on one side. On the other side, which desperately needs to make a new top star, they put the title on someone who isn't doing house shows and is in for just a short-term nostalgia fix, who from ratings and crowd reactions, whose latest return was a disappointment as far as connecting with anyone but the older fans. So we push Brock Lesnar all year and we change the course and go with a guy who maybe the WWE wasn't really high on once upon a time, and it takes 4 minutes. And now instead of making a new star with this new structure, we're going back to old nostalgia. And so a lot of folks believe that something's changed with Vince. Here's the report from Dave Meltzer. The big thing that is privately being said by people who are closest to McMahon is that things have changed greatly, even of late. People who've been the most loyal to him and praised him for decades have become more frustrated at the lack of long-term decision-making. Whether McMahon has lost confidence in himself, the internal feeling is that McMahon makes all decisions based on the last person who has his ear at the last moment pushing their beliefs, and in many cases, their personal agendas. So let's talk about that. You had been with the company for a long time at this point. Did you ever remember feeling a shift in, Vince used to have more vision long-term for these sort of things, and it does feel more willy-nilly, like who talked to him last. Is that fair? Is Meltzer got the right line of thinking there? And is this around the time that changed, or is that all just much ado about nothing?
It's not much to do about nothing because of what we've seen and how things played out. It showed me that Vince was going to emphasize and spend more time on the entertainment side of sports entertainment than the sports side. The roster that I signed were recruited because of the sports side. Because you can't say, well, I saw this guy in an independent match, or I saw this guy in an old match from EC Dub or whatever it may be, and I know that they're going to be a great personality. My first priority was, are you reliable? Can you work? Are you willing to be a team player? Meaning that when you're asked to put somebody over, you do it in the most magnanimous and most effective way humanly possible. And some talents still don't get that to this very day. They don't understand that the total of the match is much more important than the final 3 seconds. The total of the match. I hate to do like what we do here, Connie, where we'd say, the finish was interesting, but the match itself was not very good. I don't think that's a good thing.
Right.
I just don't think it's a good thing. So, but hey, Vince is getting older. He's still got a lot on his plate. Being the head honcho of a publicly traded company, his lifestyle, whatever it may be, you could tell that there was some changes ongoing, and it was distracting, quite frankly.